Of course. Yeah, of course. My name's Eric, as you see in the name. I'm one of the founders of Liquid Capital. There's three of us. There's myself, LB, and Nick. We're quite a tight team. We've spent a lot of time together from other protocols. We initiated from Great Finance, LB being the lead developer, Nick doing his tokenomics and also the overall advisory position, and myself within lead marketing. So we always stay together, but the main thing we always utilized was the networking of other partners and other teams with a common goal. And the one thing that we all found upon that we wanted to really create is a safer space for not just investors, but for real DeFi in general. Because we know DeFi is spread out from investors, from people wanting to build, from people wanting to network. There's a big, we'll say, diversity in real individual goals. So we wanted to create more a network of really, we'll say, safety. That's like the main goal that we wanted to have, because we knew there's a massive issue in DeFi with this. So when we all came together, we're trying to discuss the best way about it. And then we end up coming to terms of we need to create an ecosystem and really come up with an ecosystem head that can really help support it and push what we're trying to represent. So what we end up coming up with between the three of us was to create Liquid Capital. The name came out pretty good. It took a while to come out, as a lot of people know. We are planning it for months before we end up coming up with something for it. So yeah, we came up with the name Liquid Capital as the overall ecosystem head. And what we aim to achieve is really changing the pace of DeFi from not just creating further utilities for investors, but creating a safer ecosystem by not just leading by the example, by setting a standard for other ecosystems. So the way we wanted to achieve this is by one, we needed to have a token to really represent this ecosystem. And the way we wanted to push this token is by really having the ability of controlling the inflation, controlling the amount of tokens in circulation. And what we can do with this is actually control the rate. So what we found is the best model around this is an improvised rebase token model. And what I mean by this is a traditional rebase model we've seen has like fixed high APRs and just really like no fixed utility. And what I mean by that, they just go by marketing plans, aim for the high rebases, try and keep the treasury funding, etc. So it's not a really good cycle that we've seen in DeFi at the moment. So what we want to do is create a rebase token that has improvised, or not improvised, we'll say really different tokenomics. For example, our Liquid Capital token that we'll be creating will be LAR, which is Liquid Auto Rebase, but the actual APR system is a variable daily APR. And what this APR system will do, instead of having a very high fixed APR that's really unhealthy for the protocol that you can't sustain, we're going to have one that takes into account the actual market cap, which is a circulating supply of tokens by the price, but also the daily volume over a 7-day period. So this can give us a more accurate representation of what's good for the protocol. And what I mean by good for the protocol, I mean by a healthy standpoint to really afford these rebases for these investors, to really keep the protocol healthy from a standpoint, to really sustain for a long period of time without going into a negative standpoint. And what we could found that with having this sustainable APR system, we also wanted to have a better insurance method. So we know with rebase tokens, they have inbuilt into the contract an insurance fund. And what this is basically made up of is different tax systems, different fees, etc., going into this insurance fund that we've seen not real good use case for. It's a lot of teams, when it's meant to be used, because there's a lot of tokens in it, by the time they need the funds, they can't sell because they're already in a negative. So what we want to do with this, we're tying this with the Horde LMS system. And what this is, it's a liquidity management system that basically keeps the ranges from a high and a low, that really, if the token falls below a set point, it'll have these structured buys from stable coins to really push the price up that we've allocated in. And when the price is at a higher range, it'll do dollar cost average sells. And what this will allow to do is have that liquidity management system to really have a good funneled system of funds. So within these two protocols, this is the Liquid AR side for the sustainability methods, but we also, within Liquid Capital, we also have other methods. So we've recently acquired a DEX, and with this DEX, it also has a launch pad. And what we want to do is create not just a launch pad of good utilities, but also have a launch pad with safer networking. And what we mean by this, because we have partners with two KYC teams being Obsidian Council and the Cryptonaires, the Vault, What this will allow us to do is give these newer teams an opportunity to, one, have the safest resources from day one, but also have an opportunity to enter an ecosystem that otherwise really wasn't there. So, for an example, what this will allow you to do is get access to different developers, different networking partners, and different influencers to really go through, we'll say, the strengths and really what's missing from these junior teams. So, what this will allow us to do is create external revenue sources to really support the ecosystem. And what this will further allow us to do is create a safer network. So, within all saying this, Liquid Capital is happy to say before even launch, we've already put the trusted partner circle into play. We managed to find a rogue dev, and what this entailed was really taking over the contracts, doing a good play of the team to really ensure it was safe. And what it led to is approximately $900,000 now being returned back to the holders. And this is all pre-launch whilst in a pre-market, in a bear market. So with all of this, we really hope this is going to be the new standard in DeFi and set the example for the newer projects coming in. So that's Liquid Capital in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's quite the introduction. I mean, there's so many different aspects that I want to dive deep into, but we can obviously only go one at a time. I guess the first thing I'll start with is I know you guys are massive on partnerships and building that circle of trust. So, what do you guys do as far as like criteria for people that want to enter in that circle of trust? Because obviously, if I'm a new protocol just starting out and I get on the circle of trust or in circle of trust, obviously that's like a huge marketing benefit for my protocol because I'm in this circle and that, you know, assuming that you guys continue to grow, that would be a pretty big barrier for people. Like some people I could even see in the future being like, well, if you're not in the Liquid Capital circle of trust, then I don't want to invest in your project type of deal. If you get to that sort of level, what's the requirements to allowing somebody into that circle of trust?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the biggest one is just in its name, we need to have the trust with the team. And the way we establish this is by having a KYC instantly off the bat. So all our partners are KYC to us. So when we have a look at a team, we look at the ability for them to KYC to us. So that opens the conversation. If there's a no, we instantly do not allow them to enter. But once, so if they confirm, we go into looking at the real use case for the protocol and what the protocol hopes to achieve. We don't want to just enter protocols in that don't have a use case because that's also harmful to the protocols and it's not creating that trusted circle. So what we want to create is an understanding and understand the utilities of what they want to achieve within, we'll say, DeFi. So we want to get an understanding and really see the use case. And even though we may not see it, as long as we see that they're passionate, that they're going to stay and they will push it and that they have a genuine plan. So the biggest thing is the plan. So with a lot of protocols, they can say they're going to achieve the world basically, but without a strong plan and a strong foundation, it often lacks. So having that one-on-one interview, having that live call to really see what the team's structured plan is and see what they're going to come out with, that's how we're gauging by the team. So every single one of our partners is really pushing to actually understand the team and understand their further utilities whilst having that trusted connection within that KYC. So they're the real requirements of entering within the Liquid Capital network.
Gotcha. Okay, that definitely makes sense because I know just talking to people. I mean, there's a huge reason why I'm such a big fan of AMAs is because I get to actually have a conversation with the person that's running the protocol. I get to you can almost tell like in their voice even if they
Yeah, of
have
course.
their good intentions or bad intentions or if they're knowledgeable or if they're clueless or whatever the case may be. So I think having that live call, diving deep into their project and really seeing their vision and their passion is something that's very, very important, not only to create partnerships but also as an investor too. And that's why I'm again such a big proponent of AMAs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. Going on AMAs, it's awesome. So you get to understand the person, see their thought process. Even after, for a good example, everything we're going through at the moment, we're still here. It's currently 4 a.m., but nothing's slowing us down. And that seeing that side and seeing if a team will be able to push to those extents is really the main priority of Liquid Capital because that sets aside a team without utility versus a team because every team starts somewhere. For example, EMP Money, when they launched, they started slow and now they're one of the highest TVL tomb forks there is at the moment. And just having that achievement, when even Titano started, they were they were one of a kind. No one knew what was going to happen with them, but because they had that plan and stuck with it and really pushed their vision and really their narrative, they stuck to it from day one. It allowed them to push, and it's seeing this early in a protocol is really what we're trying to achieve within Liquid Capital, because seeing a star that can be risen from day one, whether one being full successful, being full 6 months in, it doesn't matter. For Liquid Capital, having that vision, having that real stride to succeed is really what sets us apart from an ecosystem versus an ecosystem that's just going to sit there. So we really want all the partners to be able to push for utility, have cross collabs with each other, and have that real different, we'll say, evolution change within DeFi to create those utilities that haven't been seen yet and is only possible through this type of network. Because within a Liquid Capital, we currently have Tomb Forks, we have 3-3s, NFT parties, DEXs, we have everything. And what this allows us to do is really collab these partners and use these different strengths to really help one another. And what this will further entail is these newer protocols will then get access to all these resources, and within their utilities, they can push their narrative. And with Liquid Capital assisting this, it will further build their ecosystem. It will further build the safety. So that is definitely the biggest priority, seeing those utilities early and seeing what they want to push.
Yeah, I could not agree more. That's awesome. So how did you and the other founders of Liquid Capital kind of meet and come up with the idea?
So honestly, when it came to it, we're just sitting there constantly, just sitting back and forth on calls saying there's so many rug pulls, because I think you remember like a month or two ago, there was that era where there was like a rug pull every day. It was horrible. And then none of us could do anything about it. So what we wanted to create was really just that safer network. When it came towards a name, it was really simple actually. We wanted Liquid, everything moves, everything flows. And then having a flowing network that's always evolving, that gets bigger as you combine with it, it's really the strength. There's an old saying, one person to drop, but together you're an ocean. Having everyone combine, having all these partners combined, it creates a strength that's not been seen yet. And we really want to push this. And a good thing we also have, Zach, if we can add, we also have the one and only David who's in the audience. It's 1 o'clock his time. I wasn't expecting him to be in, but if you could get him on, it would be also great to hear his side, because he's more the, like, we'll say, the lead advisor and also been around for ages. And speak of the man, David, how are you?
Hey Eric, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm good. I'm surprised you're still awake.
Hey Zach, nice to meet you, man. And you know, it's an absolute pleasure being here. As Eric was saying, it's 1 in the morning for me. I think it's 4 in the morning for you. It just shows we are 24/7. Great to be
Dedication.
here.
Dedication. I love it. I love it. Yeah,
Oh man.
I would probably not want to be on an AMA at 4 in the morning. So Eric, I appreciate that. That is amazing. And David, same thing. I probably wouldn't want to be on
Oh
an
man.
AMA at 1 in the morning. So
Oh man.
you guys are awesome.
Well,
It's okay.
I'm in Asia. I'm in Asia, and Eric's in Australia. So this is pretty normal for us. Any time of day, you never know when it's going to happen. But we're happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys.
Excellent. Excellent.
Oh, I've seen a lot of questions come through. This is excellent, David. I'm looking at the AMA questions tab. I'm sure we'll go through them shortly, guys.
Yes, definitely. So I typically like to ask a few questions and get like a baseline of information to have other people branch off of, and that way it kind of eliminates most of the questions that are asked. But yeah, I guess a couple other questions I have regarding the pre-sale fund. So obviously you guys have a massive pre-sale that you've raised thus far. Where are all of those funds going to be allocated?
Yeah, no, good question. So it's all in a white paper that we have, but with as it sits, so the 20% allocation goes towards directly to the partners. I believe there was 15% goes to Treasury, and the rest all goes to liquidity. And then within those Treasury funds, we're going to allocate a large chunk of that to the LMS system. And so we'll say the overall goes towards liquidity, and then the overall system for LMS.
Gotcha. Okay. And then as far as the LMS goes, I know you guys are doing a rebase mechanism based off of volume, and was there one other mechanism that you based the rebase percentage off of too?
Yeah, so it's the daily volume and the overall market cap.
Gotcha. So what is there like a range, like a minimum that it's going to be and a maximum that it can be, or is that from 0
Yeah.
to whatever percent?
Yeah, no, so there definitely is a range. So within the LMS system, the low range where it triggers the buys is 0.05, so it's 5 cents. And the high range where it starts commencing dollar cost average sells is 25 cents. But the beautiful thing about this system, it's flexible. So if we're getting high volume and it's really starting to push those higher ranges, we can really set the new range. So the low will be higher and extend the high range. So it's very adjustable, but having that 5 cent range will allow, so if there's any dumps initially, with the tax having the anti-whale mix initially, this will allow us to catch it. And with the funds we have early, it will allow that when the LMS kicks in, it will further build liquidity. And because we now have the DEX, all the DEX fees will go to further build liquidity. And so that's the beautiful thing about LMS, that it's so adjustable and variant on the protocol health, and also tying that with the APR system. It's the two variables that control we'll say the inflation of the protocol, but having those, we'll say, in control and with, we'll say, liquid capital and the LMS system is what really sets it aside from other rebase tokens, because it's the first time something like this has ever been created.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And obviously with launching with over $1 million in liquidity, how do you think that is going to affect you guys going forward? Because if you know, projects that launch with way less liquidity, let's say 50,000 for example, they obviously are going to be much more volatile and have more room to grow, but could also crash faster.
Yeah.
I guess what's kind of your plan to encourage people to buy in after the pre-sale, or like continue to market it and continue to grow the protocol?
Yeah, no, that's an amazing question. The best thing that we have coming is our lending and borrowing platform. So with Liquid Capital, the whole thing that we're pushing with this rebase model is not having a rebase model. Liquid Capital is using this system that to really use a distribution method and let the investors seek these rewards before we really go to our collateralization phase. And what I mean by this, within 8 to 12 months, we will turn off rebases, turn off our tax systems, and make this a stable coin. And what will allow this to do is we'll collateralize it on our lending and borrowing platform and allow this token to be used as trading for stables. And then within this lending and borrowing platform, there will also be auto repaying loans. A lot of that will be coming out in the next few weeks because it's very close to development. But the further incentive with this is now, because we have this DEX, we're looking to make this DEX a top 20 DEX within the next 6 months because of the partners we have. And having a good partner like Cardinal and having this launch pad, what this will allow us to do is having those cross-partner collabs to create those integrations within the launch pad to really set it up. And what this will allow it to do is create fees and further support. So Liquid Capital token is going to have a lot of external revenue sources pre-launch. And what this will allow us to do, because we have that high liquidity, like you said, we're going to have that high treasury. We're also going to have the insurance method of LMS, but also having our own management of DEX fees, our own systems that we can actually put into LMS and insure this token. What this will allow us to do is really sustain for a long period of time within this rebase model. And what this can do is, we don't want a moonshot token. That's not what we're aiming for at all. Having a rebase token that's sustainable in price will allow the holders to have a token and really get those auto rebase benefits of a longer period, because we have these insurance methods through different partners. And when it comes to how we're going to continue to grow it, the beautiful thing is, it is growing so drastically, the ecosystem now, because this is what everyone wants to be a part of for safety. We've seen now that the proven statement of the trusted partner circle, people are wanting to come in. Partners align. At the moment, I think we have about 8 partner requests. So because the ecosystem is rapidly growing, even past launch, this won't be a slowdown method, because at the pace it is, we have 6,000 Discord members and we've already raised the funds we have. With the continual movement, and because DeFi is getting so big, having the leaders within the field and having the different partners that are excelling, it will allow this ecosystem to always stay ahead within not only utilities, but marketing and networking with other common minds. And what this will allow us to do is not just to keep the token stable, but also keep the token utilities coming. Because as our partners grow, for example, by partnering with Horde, we achieve the LMS system. By partnering with Titano, we achieve not only one of the strongest partnerships that we could have within DeFi. But having the knowledge of David and John come along. So as this community and the ecosystem's growing, we're going to see different utilities and different cross collabs come in. For example, because we now have these DEX, it opens up the cross-chain network. Because we're a Rebase token, we can put these liquidity pools, for example, one on Switch, and really go cross-DEX very quickly. And this will allow us to have liquidity pools across different networks because of this benefit of being a Rebase token. So when we actually go into the stable phase of the collateralization, we can actually, instead of becoming an inflating token, we can now be a stable coin with deflationary mechanisms because of our distribution and the stability of the liquidity at that price. And what I mean by having burn mechanisms, etc., is having different partners, for example, like Magic. Magic Finance has auto compounding vaults that has burn features in it. And tying this within our DEX, tying this with different utilities, for example, like furnaces, like the amount, like, for example, Titano has with their burn functions, integrating these all in post rebases will be, we'll say, the driving factor, because instead of being inflationary, will become deflationary within the stable methods and a growing ecosystem. So when it comes to what is like our biggest priority, it is growing this ecosystem, not just to grow in size, but to grow in education, to grow in safety, and to grow in utilities. And when we mean by education, we don't just want to educate our partners. We're pushing a lot of platforms such as the earn to learn, and having an earn to learn platform to educate the community on not just the different risks in DeFi, but to really help them to get a security standpoint, help get the base or even a baseline understanding. The difference to have an educated community to having a moonshot community is going to really what's going to set us aside. And that's our biggest priority, to really help educate the community on the everlasting growing and changing DeFi space.
Wow. Yeah. Exactly. Can I add something? Can I add something to that as well?
Yeah.
Brilliant, Eric. Brilliant. It's really interesting because one of the things that brought Eric and I and John and the rest of the team together was this common conversation around what do DeFi investors want? Like what, everyone's running around the space trying to find value. What are the things that we've noticed in our individual and collective journeys that are consistently what we hear people talking about, right? Going through a project, as Eric mentioned, John and I, had this rocket ship called Titano that, got up to 80,000 holders, more than 200 forks of the project, and a lot to learn. And through all that, there were some things that we took away that were pretty consistent. And one of the things was safety. Safety is a big issue, right? For every project in crypto and in DeFi, you can't just add safety mechanisms to your own project. You also have to be worried about the entire industry, because if holders are coming into your project and they've just been rug pulled or scammed, they're terrified. So they're not going to give you the time that you need, the respect that you need, the support that you need to build out your project, right? So that was a major issue that we talked about, and that was one of the core issues that brought us together, safety. You have to think about, as Eric was saying, these earn-to-learn platforms, all these other kind of mechanisms that we can put in place that show investors we have your safety at heart. So the trusted partner circle is a great example of that. Everyone's doxed, everyone KYC, doxed their KYC. Everyone has gone through audits with reputable audit companies. Everyone's given us the ability to take a look at their project to help them make the project safer, to help them make the project more viable and have more potential. Second thing is sustainability. Sustainability is obviously a core feature, but what happens is, what we found is that a lot of projects don't really have the resources or energy to put into it. So they may start out with a great idea. Usually crypto projects have this great idea on launch, and they're all set up for the launch. They put all this energy, but then a month later, after that initial pump happens, everything goes away. So what went into liquid capital was a lot of time was taken to think about, how do we avoid that from happening? And along those lines, as Eric was mentioning, we looked at Hoard's LMS system, which is amazing. If you look and see what it's done in terms of sustainability and price stability, it's amazing. Also, as Eric is saying, we're launching with utilities. We're not promising utilities. We're launching with utilities. The DEX is up and running. It's generating revenue right now prior to launch. And as other things come in, like he mentioned, the launch pad, where we've got a backup of projects that we want to launch, we're going to have these utilities coming in consistently over time. The third thing I mentioned earlier is price stability. Most people, what we've learned is that what investors want is they want a stable price over time. Right? Everybody, as Eric was talking about earlier, people come, oh, we want this moonshot, win Lambo, win moonshot. With these types of projects, you want to be able to count and plan on what's going to happen over time. So liquid capital's focus on price stability, right? Price appreciation is a natural thing that may or may not happen. Price stability is something you can actually influence. And again, the Horde LMS system is an example of that, where you have price stability. So yeah, we're not saying we're going to limit the price from going up. As Eric was saying, it's an adjustable system, but the design of liquid capital is for price stability. So all of these things went in pre-launch. We took the necessary time, months and months and months, to focus on these things. And when they were ready, the project's launching. I just wanted to add that to what Eric was saying, because his answer was great.
Yeah, you're a legend. I love hearing you talk, especially no matter what time it is, 4:30, you just talk. I just sit back in my chair. I got my little pink lights on. It's excellent.
Well, thank you. I am excited about what's going on here, because it's, people come to DeFi with hopes and dreams. And, a lot of times, there's a lot of rug pulls, a lot of scams. I like to say most of the projects that I see failing aren't rugs or scams, even though I know that there's a ton of those. It's just projects that aren't well thought through. You might have brilliant developers, but they might not have access to critical information. So again, pulling together this circle of trusted partners allows us to look at other projects within this circle and saying, you know what you should do? Or this might be valuable. Or, hey, you should talk to our other partner, because they've got a mechanism that might work really well with your project. All of these things are critical in terms of creating a safer and a more profitable DeFi, not just for the holders, although they certainly are the primary focus, but also for the projects themselves. As Eric said, they're 30. What number are we up to, Eric, now?
Oh, I think we're up to 39 right now. So we had 37, and we have 39 confirmed, and I'm about to screen another 8.
Right. So it's been amazing, where people are saying, hey, look, we've been looking for this. We want to be a part of it, and we want to come in and be a member, right, that ends up in this safe environment. I want to add one more thing to that, and it's critical, and I always say this about the partners. So when investors look at it, how do you see this? David, are you saying there won't be any rug pulls? Are you saying there won't be any scams? No. This is DeFi, and things are going to happen. And this is the beginning. So you guys may have heard, like, some things have happened with some of the partners. It's true. It's always going to happen. But what we are looking to do is increase the safety. So to raise the floor on things. And we believe that over time, what will happen is, with this trusted circle of partners, projects will look at it, and then they will end up raising their level of quality to be a part of it. We're getting that now. There's some projects that come and we take a look at them and we go, it's a great idea, but we think you guys need to spend a little bit more time and just think about what you're doing here, right? And think these ideas, or this is something to add to it. And projects are actually going back before launching and going, okay, we'll spend some more time working on it. That's what's happening here. And again, it's critically important for every project. We believe for every project in DeFi, it doesn't matter who you are, because if you're not participating in this way, you're going to spend half of your time in your socials trying to convince your holders that you're not a scam, that you're not a rug pull. So creating this environment, we think, is critical. Critical for one more reason, right? We all know that we've seen what's been happening with Terra and all these different projects, right, that have crashed in a major way. So regulation is coming. We, the DeFi community, need to be in a position where we have pushback. Well, what do we do? Well, let me show you what we're doing to take on some of these issues. So all of these things, all of these thoughts went into creating liquid capital. And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see this, as Eric was saying, is flowing. Things are going to change. We're starting out with this auto rebasing token, right? Because it's the perfect mechanism to use for this stage of the project. It's going to change. There'll be more protocols coming in based on what's happening in the marketplace and based on the health of the project and the stages that we are in the project. The same thing with use cases. They're going to come out based on where we are and what stages. And what's great about it is we won't have to sit back. The Liquid Capital team won't have to just sit back and think of everything. We'll have 50 different projects that might have those use cases built out already. Hey, we want to utilize that in our protocol. It's happening already. So we believe that this creates a foundation for a new stage of DeFi. And as you mentioned, myself coming from Titano, seeing and being a part of what we went through with that amazing project, Titano needed help. And Eric and Liquid Capital said, you know what? We've got ways to help you guys even engage better. We've got ways to help you guys sustain. It's been more than phenomenal. This is the most exciting thing I've been a part of in DeFi. Because again, it takes everything that we've got, everything that we've learned, and it takes it to the next level.
Yeah, the space is definitely continuously evolving. And I think that players that have played a big role, obviously you with Titano, for example, taking your knowledge and what you've learned from running such a big protocol and applying it to another one and improving upon it, I think is definitely massive and will be a huge step forward for the DeFi space in innovating and really just going mainstream. And one question I had, because I know you guys just acquired Orbital Swap, and I know Titano is also doing a DEX of their own. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How does that work together? Is Titano going to be merging DEXs, or are they just going to be completely separate entities?
Yeah. At the moment, David, you can do it.
No. Please, Eric. Please.
Yeah, so our initial plans were always to launch on Orbital just because the initial volume and how they have it set up. So for us, we want to go cross-DEX very quickly. And because we're Rebase tokens, we're not at risk of arbitrage. So what that allows us to do is actually, because we're on the same network, we can open pools on both. So our plans eventually for Liquid Capital side is definitely to put a liquidity pool on Switch and vice versa. So our main priority is right now getting our liquidity pool, etc., set up on Orbital, then very quickly have integrations within the two teams.
Gotcha.
Excellent.
Okay, yeah, I just had that question pop in my head, like that might be a little conflict of interest, but hey.
Right.
Benefit of being a Rebase token.
Yeah.
Let me add something to that also. The relationship with Titano is a core partnership relationship. And what that means is that each project is going to look at all of their assets and all their resources, and each partner will help the other try to maximize those assets. Right? I've had this type of a conversation quite a bit. How we have to look at things from a larger level, like what's the possibilities? And the possibilities are Titano's at a stage where a core component of what it's doing is taking on partners, right? We saw that as an example with BetSwirl. And the amazing benefits of those are, number one, co-marketing opportunities. If you ask me what happened with Titano's price, it was Titano lost its ability to tell its own story. We got overwhelmed, right? All of these forks, 25% of them, their entire marketing strategy was Titano's over, Titano's over. And I found that when I was doing AMAs, my questions were always related to, well, David, what about inflation? Titano in this particular stage. And my response was, I got brilliant people who are advising me about every stage of this project. And the key is we have to keep, like every single other project, we have to keep growing, keep innovating, keep building, keep doing all of those things that show we're a viable project. But the messaging was extraordinarily challenging, right? We had people who were paying all these YouTubers to say all these things that weren't necessarily true, but when you got 100 against 1. So being able to co-market and being able to have a strong project like Liquid Capital that can tell the story is extraordinarily important with Titano. The second thing is when you have a rebasing token, you need to be able to create a lot of use cases to fight inflation, to bring in additional revenue, to bring in new holders, and to get holders to hold on to their tokens longer. So being able to have this partnership where use cases can be provided, constantly and consistently, where Titano doesn't have to build out. So what I'm saying here is the partnership is bigger than any particular use case, and every single use case will be looked at to see how it can benefit the relationship. That includes Switch, that includes Orbital, and everything that gets created.
Gotcha, yeah. That definitely makes sense. And I've got two more big questions before we can jump into all the audience questions. We probably have like 200 or 300 at this point, so we're gonna have to sift through quite a few of them. But so partnerships, that's a very broad term, as we know. I mean, it could be like an NFT project shouting you out in a Discord server, or it could be working hand in hand with the project, you know, for years and years. So as far as your partnerships go, I know you have the circle of trust, and you went over a little bit about how your partnership with Magic Finance, that kind of goes a little bit more in depth. Is that going to be something that you look for in every single project that is in the partner list, or is that going to vary, I guess, depending on the individual project?
See, that's an amazing question. So the biggest thing is, because we're going to have a lot of, so for example, we have a lot of tomb forks, and because a lot of them share a lot of different utilities, we have to rate for the right utility. So what I mean by that is, right now, Liquid Capital, within our circle of trusted partners, we're not looking to outsource from other partners from different utilities. We're looking in our circle to see where the projects are in their current stage and how we can integrate that with Liquid Capital and our utilities that we have. So for example, our DEX, there's going to be some big announcements coming for those integrations, because we're not just going to do that DEX alone. That's the biggest hint towards that side. So we definitely are looking to have a lot of partner integration. If I could say right now, 100%, I would love to say we could have utilities with every partner, but a lot of partners have a lot of commons. And what I mean by that is so for example, a lot of partners are looking to have DEXs, to have their own different utilities on a DEX. But for us, we want to have that big picture. We want to be that central mechanism. So with these different teams, just in their current stages, it may not be the right time, but within the right utility, we definitely want to have a collab with at least all these partners. Definitely.
Gotcha. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think that having deep partnerships and deep relationships that last a while really benefits everybody in the long run.
100%.
Agreed.
I couldn't agree more with that. Yep.
Yeah, and then I guess the last question I had is just like a broad overview of all of the revenue streams that you guys have, at least right now, and over the next few weeks that you guys will have, because I know you got Orbital Swap and a few others, if I'm not mistaken.
So as sits right now, we obviously got the beautiful LAR as that's launching. So, and what that comes with is heavy marketing. We've already paid approximately, I think it's 60,000 for another round of marketing. And what this will entail is approximately just a massive marketing push. And this will allow our image to really be pushed out to the wider DeFi community. On top of that, like you mentioned, we got the DEX, and having a lot of utilities within that, such as the Launchpad. They're two different utilities that come into play. So having the DEX fees to help further build the liquidity and also support our partners. That's what we're looking to do to help support this trusted circle within this DEX. But also within this Launchpad, it will allow us to also have those early DEX fees, but also those early allocations of pools, and really assist these protocols within raises, etc. So those two big utilities pre-launch is one of the main kickers. What we also want to achieve is the biggest one will be our lending and borrowing platform. With having the lending and borrowing, that's coming from Grape Finance. So that'll be initially launched at Grape Finance to support the Grape token. And then once it builds a little bit, and once we're up to our collateralization phase, Liquid Capital token LAR will go onto this. And what this will allow us to do is have a revenue stream that's not really dependent on the current situation. What I mean by that is, regardless if it's a bear or bull market, the price of tokens shouldn't fluctuate. The influx of the utility and real fear in the market. And by us pushing the educational route, we're really hoping to counter this method, because the biggest issue in DeFi when a bear market hits is not the price of the token dropping, it's the fear that comes with it. So for example, what I mean by this is, the biggest example we see is in tomb forks. They're normally pegged to a stable coin. So being paired, for example, to USDC, there shouldn't be a price drop when in a bear market. But because there's having that fear, that's the biggest kicker. So having the education platform, having the lending and borrowing, the DEX, the Launchpad, and the earn and learn platform to further support, these are going to be the utilities that are going to be here, that already majority of them are, that if not will be here within the early stage of Liquid Capital. So having these plans early sets us up to further develop and further, we'll say, grow these utilities, because these utilities aren't just limited to liquid capital. So what I mean by this is having these decks, we can also assist our partners. So allowing them to come onto the decks, allowing them to have their own dex fees to build liquidity. This will create volume and further support. So by helping our own ecosystem, by helping one another, it's going to further support the individual protocol and individual partners within. So that's the main utilities that we have for liquid capital.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think that having outside revenue streams, it's no secret at this point that that's the key to actually having a protocol that benefits more people than it hurts, right? Because
100%.
In a traditional, or at least we saw a lot of projects that had zero outside revenue streams coming into the market, and it essentially is just like a game of poker where everybody puts their chips in the middle, and some people walk out with more and some people come out with less. And outside revenue streams supporting the whole entire ecosystem is going to flip that tide, so more people come out ahead than take a loss. So definitely something that I love to hear. But yeah, we can move on to some of the community questions. The first one is, all algorithmic coins that have tried to maintain a stable price have failed. How can we guarantee that Horde's LMS won't end up in the same boat long term?
So what I want to lead with this is, everything in DeFi is experimental. Nothing is certain in DeFi. That's what we know. That is the known in DeFi, that nothing is certain. But what we can do is limit the factors. As sits right now, liquid capital is the only protocol to take into account market cap to daily volume to give affordable rebases or affordable returns to the holders. So having that different utility is what we've learned that is required from different experiences from DeFi. So the big difference that we have within other teams is we have a very diverse team. And what I mean by this, having David and John being the proper official people that were with Titano when it first came, having the experience of the first Big Daddy Rebase token, all the negatives, all the benefits, having the knowledge that they have is something that we can't have. And having that prior is the equivalent of launching a protocol with the experience that is required to be really stable. So having these different, we'll say, knowledge bases, and having our technical backgrounds. For myself, I'm a technical trader that came from and then came into DeFi to experience a real difference. Having LB as a lead developer, having NB as a tokenomics, and also having these partners to help support it. We've had a lot of partners, for example, like Magic, Goldmin, EMP, Titano, that's really helped us to really support this protocol. And so to have all these different viewpoints, there's different experiences and different, we'll say, viewpoints, it's really the only way to put it, because everyone has a different opinion, and having these different opinions can lead to the change. And having these from day one, having these learned mistakes, the different experiences, is what we take pride in setting ourselves apart. Because we know when protocols, when they around a 3 to 4 month mark, they're heavily looking for partners to try and help them. Why not do that early? And then when you're at that stage, further develop utilities, because you have that trust bond. And that's where we're at with Liquid Capital. We really want to push from previous mistakes. And because this was a lot of planning with it, we've actually managed to have, for example, the rebase model more perfected by having even Titano work alongside us. So taking our time and really educating ourselves on the DeFi space is what sets us aside. So nothing is certain, but we're learning from the flaws to really set ourselves apart from everyone else.
Oh, Zach, let me, if I can, I would like to add something, because Eric is being very humble, and that's who he is, and it's well respected. But, you know, what has to be added here when he talks about the team, you know, he says very nice things about John and myself, and it's very much appreciated. But, you know, he, LB, and Nick are very well respected in the DeFi space and are consultants as well as owners on a very successful DeFi project. When you look at the quality of partners that have come to the table, they've come because of the respect level that they have for the founders of Liquid Capital. I mean, we've got some of the hottest DeFi projects, including Titano, who are part of this trusted partner circle, and it's based on who they are. They are the guys that are behind a lot of these protocols. In addition to that, they're honest, They are hardworking. I mean, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, they are smart, very, very smart. And all of those things have to be present, right? When you see the difference, the difference makers, the projects that do well, those are the qualities. And so, as you look at all of this stuff, yeah, as Eric is saying, and I say it all the time, all of these are experiments. All of these projects are experiments. But if you step back a minute, you'll see that the experiments are getting better and better and better and better, right? And for those guys like Eric and like LB and NB, they are pushing things forward in a very strategic way. It's not trying this and running over here and doing all of that. We spend months working on getting this right. And, all of that time was a lot of back and forth and arguing and, hey, what about this? And we looked at it. It's great to be able to look at all of these different protocols and say, well, they do it this way and they do it like this. And maybe if we add a little bit of that or a little less of this. So that's what's here as well. It's a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of success that has occurred. And that's what's created it. So, the definitely all of these are experiments. I want to say something else very quickly about sort of the nature of this question. Algorithmic stablecoins are a necessity of crypto. The role that they play, although I disagree with what companies like Terra did and some of these others, but the necessity is indisputable. There has to be a way where DeFi and crypto can dislodge itself from fiat currency, or else this space will never have the amount of freedom that it needs to grow the way that it has to. And that means algorithmic stablecoins. An algorithmic stablecoin is a piece of software, and it will get better and stronger over time. It just needs time to develop. But we shouldn't give up on a necessity. And so, having that, and again, Liquid Capital doesn't start with an algorithmic stablecoin. We don't have that. But I really am, there's this part of me where, first and foremost, everyone that was a part of Terra, and I got a lot of friends who lost a ton of money in that project. But right behind that, algorithmic stablecoins got a bad rap. But we can't turn away from that particular tool in this industry. It's needed. And brilliant people need to continue working on it to get it right. And I am 100% sure that someone's going to get it right. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting take on algorithmic stablecoins. I haven't quite thought of it that way myself yet, but
Zach, think about it. Zach, think about it. I don't mean to cut you off, but think about it. Right now, the US dollar, the United States government said, if you interact with our currency, then we get some say-so on what you're doing. Look at what just happened with Russia. Right? Russia gets into a war and the United States goes all around the world where Russia has dollars put here and here and here, and it seizes all of those dollars. How are we going to win as a crypto industry when at any second they can come in and say, we're pulling all of our money out? We can't allow ourselves to be put in that position. We've got to have something that mimics it, but doesn't involve it directly. That's what an algorithmic stablecoin does. So it's a necessary tool, and we have to keep working on it and getting it right and getting it right. And with so many brilliant minds in this space, someone's going to nail it. I'm 100% sure of it.
Definitely. I was just going to say, like, the way that you explain it 100% makes sense to me. And I do see the need, like you said, I mean, with a governing authority having so much control over dollars that we own, or that we at least think we own, right?
Right.
That's something that's a little bit of a concern for a lot of people, especially, that's essentially what sprung the DeFi community as a whole. So
that's definitely right. That's absolutely right.
100%.
Absolutely right.
And yeah, so I guess going back to the main question about the Hoard's liquidity management service, for those of us that don't understand what exactly it is and how it works, because from my understanding, it's not like totally algorithmic. Like there's some funds backing it up, although I haven't quite
100%.
looked into it. But from
I'll give a very brief understanding.
Yeah,
I can give you a brief one. So for anyone listening, I may the best way to put it for me is, I'm very not technical on it, but I'll give you a very brief understanding on it. So it's like a bot that has funding from us. So when we first launched Liquid Capital, we're putting a direct sum of stables in, and it's basically going to be a bot that sits within our DEX, that when the price falls below a certain range, it's going to trigger buy. So it's going to be buying our token and then keeping it within the LMS system. So within this, what this bot will allow us to do is, when it goes to the high range, the tokens that are bought, it can slowly sell. So that's like the best way to see that. It buys low, sells high, but manages within the contract automatically, and that we can auto put it up or down depending on volume.
Gotcha. So essentially it's like almost like a trading bot that's preloaded with funds that makes a profit based off of the range that it sells to, hopefully keep those funds in the wallet to be able to keep maintaining that range. Is that correct?
In a very simple answer, yes. But what we're also doing, we're tying that bot with it's not a bot, it's a contract, but what we're tying that contract to is our insurance fund. So our insurance fund that's receiving, we'll say, the tax allocations and treasury, not treasury, the DEX fees, we're also going to be putting this into the system. So what this will allow it to do is, when the, say if we're in a bear market and it's hitting low range, or if the low range is higher than, and it's consistently hitting it, we'll have the funds to be a true insurance line. And what I mean by this is, it can actually back the price of that line. And that's the best thing about having this system, is when the protocol is healthy. And I've seen a lot of questions like, why do we have the price range so wide initially? And it comes down to the whale mech we have initially, because we have the variable tax system, having the higher tax initially, so it can't be dumped on. If it does, the protocol that will, from a tokenomics point of view, if it's dumped from 12 cents down to 5 cents, the liquidity that it would achieve from that would approximately well put the price well above pre-sale price, just from the liquidity price from this actual tax. So having that tokenomic early is just a beautiful mindset to have, because it's that true insurance line. You can have that token that when it launches, you don't have to worry about it dropping below that line at all. And because it's a rebase model, it can really stay between that line and really keep pushing. And because we have those external revenue sources and those utilities to continue backing it, that's what makes LMS so powerful, because how much support and funds that will be feeding the system.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Horde obviously has used it on their own token and have seen tremendous success with it. I mean, their price has been completely stable for the last, almost 100 days now. So it's
been absolutely incredible. And their overall liquidity is going up. Their overall funds in their LMS is going up. We're launching the same equivalent price that they're going to have in their LMS insurance fund from day one that they have had in 100 days. So having that from day one is just such, we'll say, a relief from a standpoint of a rebase token, to have a true insurance line. And that's what we want to keep reiterating, that it's a true insurance line.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love it. So I know we're coming up to almost an hour now. I don't know how much time you guys had on your hands, but if you're okay with answering a few more questions, I'd absolutely love to.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get a few more questions out, definitely. I've seen a lot of very similar, so it'll be good to get a few more out.
Yeah, for sure. We actually got one guy raising his hand, Chicken Chaser Crypto. I just invited you to speak if you want to come up.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Hey, man.
How are we all doing? We all good?
Yeah.
Hey, man. How are you?
Yeah, always good, Eric. You know.
Yeah, how are you, man? It's good to have you up.
Always good. I like to obviously come up and obviously ask a couple questions, just to give a broader spectrum. So what I was going to ask a nice way, because obviously what LC is trying to accomplish here is massive. And if we do, look at it that way, what you guys are doing for the DeFi space is going to be amazing. So what I'm going to ask is, obviously from my side, is all these partners that we've got obviously on LC. I mean, there's plenty. I think I've seen countless, and there's more coming apparently from the obviously announcements you guys are giving. But I want to know, is there ways, and have you guys got plans to try and integrate all those partners slowly but surely, that not just they're getting familiar with LC, but with each other, and create this obviously system where obviously you're creating a whole ecosystem of safe projects and bringing the communities in one. You see Zach's project has 1,000 members, you got another 10,000 there, 5,000 here, 6,000 there. It would eventually be nice to imagine to have one Discord for all of them, you know, like LCs, but obviously so they're all getting to know, so bring all these people together.
So at the moment, one of the biggest goals we are doing, like we said, is get a lot of these partners across collab. This has already started. For example, EMP started reaching out to the other partners. There's been a lot of collabs within the actual networking that we have. So it's already starting. So one of the big things about this, it takes time to form the trust and the real bond between the ecosystem and the partners. And the biggest thing that we've already seen is these teams are starting to really communicate of, for example, why they joined in together and the common goal they have, because everyone that joined in wants that safer connection within their ecosystem. So everyone already has a common goal. But finding the common utilities is what we're already finding that partners are doing. So it's already starting. We definitely want to be the central hub for these network of ecosystems. However, each individual community has their foundation. They have their support. For example, if you head over to Great Finance, they have their people that have been in there for day one. Head over to EMP or Horde, same thing. So we definitely want to keep the communities at home, but also have an ecosystem like the Liquid Capital, how we're pushing to be that central network. So we're already seeing a lot of these people emerging into Liquid Capital. So it's definitely happening. And it's the actual partnerships that are occurring. It's happening a lot quicker than we actually anticipated, which is even better for our ecosystem because it shows the rate of growth is just phenomenal. For example, from an engagement rate within the LC Discord, it has one of the highest engagement rates within growth. Of course, we're in a pre-sale, so it makes a lot of sense. But what we're seeing is a lot of partners are also starting to get high engagement rates. And this is because these partners, when they come into Liquid Capital, they see our trusted partner circle, they see a protocol and they want to check it out. So we're definitely already seeing it. And what this will allow, what this can do is, for an example, an investor will check out a protocol, go back to their own and really spread the positiveness. And that's what really pushes the ecosystem by having the community interest, having the community on a common ground, then coming to a mutual agreement that this is what we need. So it's already happening, but it's just going to take a little bit more time to have those common utilities, but it's definitely in play.
Yeah, can I add something to that as well?
Of course.
It's interesting because the idea was to get things started, because there was a belief that by creating this environment, right, that a lot of things are going to happen, some of which we can't really plan on, and some of which we believe the outcome will be equal to more than the sum of the parts, if you will. So what typically happens when you create these type of environments is that you get what you're requesting, which is everyone working together. But in addition to that, you get a couple of projects that all of a sudden connect with each other and say, hey, I didn't know you came to this place. Yeah, I come here every Friday. Well, let's talk about something. What we're seeing and whatever is describing is both are happening, where you're seeing this protocol talk to this one, find out that they have some similarities or they have some common goals, and then they can work on something. The major thing, when I talk about, it being bigger than the sum of the parts, imagine when these different groups with different experiences start building brand new things together. Right, that's the exciting part, and I'm not just.
That's the first thing I thought of, like almost like a hive mind you guys are creating, you know.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so, Eric said it, and it didn't get emphasized, but it should. This is not just about Liquid Capital. This is the belief that Liquid Capital has by creating this environment. It makes it better for everyone. There still needs to be competition amongst the partners. You've got, as Eric mentioned, there's a bunch of Tomb Forks, there's a bunch of this, there's a bunch of that, and 3x3s, and all these different projects. There's competition. But in recognizing that by working together, because there are common problems, it will elevate the entire space. So that's what the goal is. And then everything's on the table, right? Everything that's a potential good is on the table to be discussed. So co-marketing, I've talked with Eric about, hey man, let's look at some of the, the protocols that are not as strong, and let's go into some of those projects and let's find out what they need and talk to their communities. And, there are some commonalities amongst the partners. As we mentioned, everyone's ability to be transparent. but also all of these projects have strong communities, whether it's 1,000 people or, 80,000 people. They've all got strong communities and holders who are, enthusiastic about those projects. We don't want to create an environment where projects are losing their holders because of this greater thing. We want to make it stronger for everyone. We also, though, if you think about it, gosh, I was going to call you chicken, but chicken chaser crypto. If you think about it also, one of the benefits, chicken's fine. Okay. So one of the amazing benefits that DeFi should offer is being able to have people diversify. You may not want to put all your money in one project. Well, how do you choose with so many rug pulls and scams and bad projects? Imagine having this ecosystem where the safety's there. So now you can diversify within the safety. And what's the next step? The next step is giving benefit to the project. So I'm in Titano and I look over at EMP Money and I go, I really love that project, but I want to support Titano. So what do? Imagine if Titano gets a benefit if a Titano holder goes into EMP Money. This is why when you look at this example, for example, when you look at what's happened with this pre-sale, it's amazing. It's fantastic. Take a look at those 25 projects and see how many of their holders have put money into liquid capital through their projects. It shows you the love that these people have for the projects that they're in. And that's a beautiful thing. And they get immediate benefit. The projects get immediate benefit. So it sets a foundation for what the potential of this trusted partner protocol is going forward. So if you're looking at the things that we're seeing, this is there. But I'm telling you right now, there are going to be things that none of us counted on that are going to happen, that are going to be amazing. And one of them, as I said, is going to be these new use cases, because now these protocols are taking a look at other protocols and go, how does that? I know I'm doing it. Right? I didn't know the details about tune forks, but now that I've learned about them, my mind is going crazy. So it's very, very exciting. And I just, wanted to add to what Eric was saying. It's in the cards, and a lot of it will happen, in ways that we can't necessarily map out. But by creating the environment, it creates the opportunity for it. You put a little emphasis in it, and magic is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys answering the question for me. Yeah, well, we love what you guys are doing, and I think everything that's happened from LC's side so far has just been amazing, the support they've shown the community. Obviously, I originally come from Titan and stuff like that, so yeah, we've loved watching you guys work. We really have.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's me, guys. My 2 cents. Have a good night, and hopefully I'll be in a lot more of these.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Great question.
Have a good one.
Hey.
All right, we got Austin as well. He came up on stage. He wants to make you
Hey,
sweat,
Austin.
Eric.
Oh, here we go, Austin. Let's go. Hey, big
All right.
man.
I had
Hey,
never even heard of Liquid Capital, so sell. No.
here we go.
Hey, so I did see some hard questions here, and I want to make sure they're answered as well. And one thing that I've seen from Town 444 is, and before I even answer this, before I ask this question, one thing I would like to tell everybody listening is, they asked, how do you convince liquid capital holders that their investment is secure? One thing that I consider kind of like a red flag immediately when I'm putting money into any of these DeFi projects, I tell people DeFi is risk capital. It is still a gamble, just like Eric said, right? Everything is still experimental in DeFi. So if I were to ever have a project say, well, we're going to convince you by XYZ right off the bat, I would think that's a red flag, because it's in no one's interest, and it's in no one's, like in these DeFi projects, to convince you. And if someone's trying to convince you, like, it just doesn't sit right with me. The reason why I invest in, Titano, the reason why I like Eric, the reason why I like these types of projects is they're real. You've heard David say time and time again about Titano, hey, we're not going to survive unless we do create a ton of use cases. You hear Eric say, well, we're not going to give you guarantees. This is still experiments at the end of the day. So right off the bat, I don't want you, Eric, to convince me, but I would like for you to tell Town 444 and everybody else listening, how have your smart contracts been audited, and can you tell more details about the audit? And just basically telling people how secure is liquid capital as far as like any nefarious, malicious intents.
Course, no. So the first thing we want to start off with saying is we're a very open team. So I'm publicly doxed. I'm also our founding team, including LB, Nick, and myself, are all KYC to the Obsidian Council. We made sure of this. So what this will ensure that all three founders and the contract owner is full KYC. This will make us, really responsible for our actions, if ever. So with LB being myself, me and LB being from Australia, both being doxed and KYC, Australia has one of the strongest legislations on foul play, especially within crypto and overall within theft. So if the overall risk to ratio for myself and LB, because we're KYC, we cannot afford to do anything. So when it comes towards a contract audit, the contract is 100% audited. So we have an Oxguard audit. We're waiting to release that upon the final change. So we've maximized the gas use case usages. When it comes towards the actual major risks, there's only one. And it's the blacklist. So we want to keep the blacklist function. And this is because what we found within DeFi is the risk to have the overall ability to have this blacklist function is very vital. The only reason to have a blacklist function is in case of emergencies, but when it's been an emergency, no one's had it. So disabling a blacklist function is really counterintuitive. So Liquid Capital, what we have from straight out the gates, a full KYC team with a live docs face. So on top of that, we're fully audited. And on top of that, we're not only just KYC, but we're partnered with 2 KYC teams. So with having the Obsidian Council partnered with Liquid Capital and having the Vault KYC partnered with Liquid Capital, we're held to the highest standard within safety within DeFi. What we've also wanted to push within why an investment should be safe, we want to say should be because nothing is certain in DeFi. We want to push that. Every individual holder, please do your research. Never listen to just the owner. Do your own individual research. Really feel comfortable with the project, because when you invest money, it shouldn't be for the very quick profit. We're really pushing, invest in the team. Invest into a team that you want to stick with and that you can find that long-term utility. With Liquid Capital being a full docs and KYC team and having a full roadmap, we want you to be able to really see the vision that we're trying to push. We want you to see what we're trying to create. And if it's in the path that you see succeeding and that you're comfortable investing your funds within this team, we want you to go that route. Nothing is forced. We always want to make you do your own research. And when it comes to the accountability side of Liquid Capital, we're not just held to a higher standard. We're held to the highest standard because we're the ecosystem head. So having a lot of partners that are going by our credibility, going by our trust, we have a lot of responsibility, not just to our investors, but a lot of responsibility to our partners. So having this responsibility, what this allows is all the partners to all look at our contracts, look at what the team's doing. We are fine tooth and comb to watch by everyone, and having that security straight off the bat and having that trust with the ecosystem that we're not hiding anything. We want to be able to push that security, that trust within not just the partners, but our investors also. So I hope that answers your question in regards to the security side.
Yeah, man. And I had a follow, and that is really, really good. I mean, dude, this is why I tell people, right? Like, I only like to work with people in the DeFi space that are just real. They're not crazy moon boy type people. And this is kind of like a follow-up question to that, but also just a personal one that I had is, so within Liquid Capital, the 2 main things that I'm looking at, that I'm an investor, that I see third party, is the one main value that Liquid Capital provides is the security aspect of the circle of trust. The second main value that Liquid Capital provides is the unique way that you guys are doing your rebasing and your return on investment model. Instead of just being a fixed one size fits all, you kind of have a more of adaptable ROI. So with the security of the circle of trust, if you guys could, if you could just run through for everybody super quick, not like, you know, obviously in depth, because I know there's probably, it takes more than 5 seconds to screen somebody within your circle of trust. As somebody that perception is everything, if they look to your partners right now, there are a lot, right? We got a lot of partners, and somebody could say, well, is Liquid Capital just accepting anybody? So the question I have is, could you run me through, okay, so I'm Austin Clark. I have a project and I want to partner with Liquid Capital. How would you hold me accountable if I were to do something wrong? And then within that, like, how do you determine whether Austin Clark actually means business versus a project that is just wanting to get within liquid capital for marketing? Like where's that like super specific standard? Because I know in the white paper you talk about the standards of they dox themselves, they provide contact information, they have to be audited, their code has to be audited. But like, do you have any more like super specifics that is not within the white paper on how you develop that standard?
So no, that's an amazing question, Austin, and thank you so much for asking that. And the biggest thing is, when it comes to how we secure our partners, is we take a different approach. And what I mean by this is, what we've seen in audits is audits can miss things. This is a very known fact that audits can overlook contracts. And what we do is, when we partner with these teams, we don't only just look at the contracts, but we have a look at their partners and who they're collaborated with. So what this allowed us to do, and from just an experience, what this allowed us to do is having, for example, orbital swap. Having orbital swap, and that what happened with orbital recently, what that allows us to do is really to demonstrate what we can achieve. Because, for example, orbital swap developer was not docs, but he was KYC'd. He was able to trust me to get on a call. Having this ability, what we have on top of these partners is, because we have their details, we hold them accountable for their actions. So when this occurred with Orbital, for example, I'll give you an example. As soon as I got onto a call with him, I not only had him on a call, I had him face call me. And because he's known within our trusted circle that he had to do this, with what this achieved within us was getting ownership of the protocol was a lot easier, which prevented an overall rug pull. So the approach that we take in with these systems is having the KYC component. Not only, we don't just pass it to a random KYC team, we hold this. We have these KYC teams. What we can do with this, depending on the action and depending on the country or security risk at play, we can either action it ourselves or, for example, our Obsidian Council partnership with their investigating team. So another criteria that we actually look at is the background of the founder. That is the biggest key for us. So what we look at is, when we do these calls, we ask the founder on what projects they've worked on and what they do. So the biggest one is, often or not, when someone's who's affiliated with the rug pull, it's very easy for them to lie on the launch up project. So finding the past, and if it doesn't match up with the wallet history, that's an instant red flag. So going into a very good deep dive within the actual protocol, this allows us to get a very good understanding on not just who their security audit was, on who they're KYC to, but what it puts it onto them is to be accountable to us by giving that information to us, not from their audit team, but their direct side directly to us. And what this allows us to do, like I said, for them to be accountable, it gives us that pressure that allows us to prevent major issues. For example, this whole Titan issue, because we had the actual information of the founder, that allowed to gain control. So I really hope that answers the question on the security side to our partners, because that is definitely one of the key aspects of liquid capital.
Yeah, can I add one thing to that, Austin? How you doing, by the way?
What's up, David?
Hey,
I love running into you all the time.
I know you're stalking me around DeFi, but that's all right, man. I love you. One of the things is that when Liquid Capital came to Cardinal, there were 15 partners that were circled, that were part of this circle of trusted partners. And every one of those 15 projects, they knew each other, right? So the foundation of the circle of trusted partners is people that know each other, have worked together, have a history together. That was the foundation. And the thought behind that was, let's create an environment, again, I use that word, where when people look at it, they go, okay, that's already strong. So if you're someone who has bad intentions, you've got to come into this strong environment with all of these things that Eric mentioned as being barriers to entry. And you've got to somehow exist in this environment with all of these viable projects. That's what you're asking to be a part of this partnership. And again, it's not perfect, and it will change over time. You know, we did an AMA with Obsidian Council, and they've had a rough time building out what they're building, but they're committed to doing it. And I was talking with Matt, who's the head over there, and I said, Matt, what's changed in this period of time that you guys have gone through 100 projects? He said, David, everything. We've learned so much. We've added all these different departments. and one of the things that, to add to the other part of your question, Liquid's engaging with projects, with other partners like Obsidian Council, who's now a partner, so that when there is an issue, right, let's say a protocol has to be followed up on, or a project has to be followed up on, we can engage experts that are not outside experts, because as Eric said, and it's very true, and he's speaking from experience, just because someone has an audit doesn't mean that they've really been audited. Right? A lot of things are for sale in this marketplace, and you can read between the lines. But so the idea is we need auditing companies. We need KYC companies, right? We need companies that we can docs with. Let's make those projects partners. Let's bring them into this circle too. So then when there is a problem, it's not just Liquid Capital looking at it. It's a team of projects going, okay, can you guys do an assessment of this, and you guys do an assessment, and we'll take a look at what both of you guys come back with. So this is the environment, again, that's being created. And over time, people, I believe, projects will see what's going on here, and the barrier to entry will be so high, and the cost, the potential cost, will be so high that it'll deter 90% of them. One more thing I want to add, and that is some projects start out viable and then run into problems. And I say this to every investor listening. Not everything that looks like a rug pull is a rug pull. Not everything that looks like a slow rug or a scam is. Some projects just fail, and we've got to give room to that. More than 90% of the projects in DeFi fail. So what does that mean? It means that some of the circle of trusted partners will fail. Now, part of our agenda is to increase the percentage of successful projects, but even with that, some are going to fail. So we have to be mindful of that as we operate in this space. It's not going to be perfect, right? There are going to be some bad situations that happen, but you know, as Eric talked about when he talked about Orbital and you know its partner project or its parent project Titan, Liquid Capital jumped right in, and Eric was amazing in protecting the community and getting the money back, and then turning what was a horrible situation. If any Titans are in here, you guys can verify that, into something that hopefully will be a long-term win for everyone in that community. So Liquid Capital is committed to jumping in when needed, but it won't just be Liquid Capital. It'll also be a group of projects, some that are specifically focused on this area. So Liquid Capital doesn't have to learn as we're going along. You know, again, being in business with Obsidian Council, they've already been through a lot of this. Oh, no, we can tell you what that is. So again, Austin, it's a process, and we have to go through that, and we'll see. But again, a lot of things have been put in place to make things get better over time. Hopefully that answers your question, my friend.
Absolutely.
Excellent, man.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any more questions? Because you came up with a bunch of questions. I don't know exactly where you got them, but I know you're very resourcewell.
I like to use all my resources. One last question.
Hold on one second. For you guys don't know, Austin and I are very good friends, and we communicate daily. He's one of my favorite people in crypto, so we joke around a lot, just to let everyone know.
Yeah, absolutely. One final question I have, and then I'll shut up. Is I've seen this one come up a ton from a few different people, and I actually, when I was going through the white papers, doing my first ever video on Liquid Capital, this was a question that I was kind of really confused at first, so I know a lot of people probably are as well, and that is with the tapering of the ROI. So this question is, so obviously if you go into the white papers, you got month 1, 2, and 3, and 4. That's already laid out where you got a left and right limit of, you know, from the minimum to the max. And then of course, throughout the weeks, that'll be calculated based on the market cap, volume, all that stuff. Now, after the month 4, does it stay between 0.25% to 1.25%? Or will you have, you know, on month 5, 6, 7, will you have another new chart down the line?
No, so right now we definitely won't have a chart because the way the system's in play, because at month 4 to we'll say 8. After month 8, we want to go to like I said, and rebases, if not around month 12. So having the 0.25 to 1.25%, we believe that's going to be sustainable within the calculation that we've ran. Of course, if the range needs to be adjusted depending on protocol health, if the protocol health's amazing, we can up it. Exactly like you said, we can adjust it. But however, as planned, that's how we continue to go on at that range post the month 4 mark.
Austin,
I really like that.
Did you already said clearly after month 4, we're going to look and see the health of the project, and the APR or the yield will adjust based on the health of the project. That could be up or down. So we'll just have to see.
Gotcha. Cool. And just that way everybody is clear with the APY in general. And I use a really good analogy that I think a lot of people can relate to, is that if you're kind of like driving in a car, right? And if you turn your little miles per gallon, like if your car has that feature where it shows like what is your current miles per gallon, not like your average, but your current as you're driving. If you go down a hill, you have like 99 miles per gallon, right? But no gasoline car does that. But as you're going down that hill, you're not applying gas, you're not doing anything, you get that 99 maxed out thing. But then as soon as you start hitting the gas pedal, okay, now maybe it drops to 30 or whatever your miles per gallon it gets. So that's what I like to use as kind of an analogy for these really high APY types of things, where just like what Eric said is they're going to maybe around month 8 or so, they're going to try to cut out rebases altogether, go deflationary. You see that with a lot of these rebasing projects that want to stop that because they're getting that. Right now they're going down the hill. They're dispersing their tokens so that way early people within the project are rewarded by holding onto their tokens, increasing their share of the protocol. And then when they stop those rebases, obviously they're not getting that APY anymore of the token because now they're hitting that accelerator. They're moving on to phase 2 where now you benefit from having these, not selling and having this large share of the token. So that's kind of like if people are kind of confused on, there's no way this APY will last forever. Absolutely. Just like how your car will never have 99 miles per gallon for the entirety of your trip. It's only going down the hill. So it's like that initial burst, and then in that current state, yes, you're getting X amount of APY, but if it ends, okay, you're getting nothing. So I just wanted to clarify that as well because I've seen a few questions for that.
Yeah, Austin, I drive electric. Could you redo the analogy?
Okay, so if you have 300, no,
Zach, I'm glad you said that. My playful mind was going the same place, but I'm glad you said it, not me.
I just want to add something also. Austin, just on a little security side also is one thing that Liquid Capital is setting aside from basically every other pre-sale is there is no team allocations, no pre-allocations, and the only circulating supply of tokens are bought. So just to reiterate, no one on the team, including myself or any founders, will have an allocation of tokens from any pre-sale event or anything. The only allocation of tokens that will come through will be post-tax that will be generated through protocol. So there will be no risk of protocol dumping or any of the team dumping or manipulating the price, as we will not have any supply of the token. I just want to reiterate that.
Thank you.
Nice.
Good point.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Austin,
Thank
for
you.
coming up.
Thank you so much, Austin.
Yeah, and then we're coming up on almost an hour and a half already. This has been the time it flies by when you're having fun. I mean, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
as soon as Austin comes on, we just start giving it to each other. I love it.
Oh yeah. The last question I had was, I think Benova asked this one in chat, was what has been the hardest thing that you guys have come across so far? Because the first time I heard about you, I think it was in one of Delta Finance's mega AMAs, and I was hardly tuning in. Like, I was probably focusing on some other work, and I heard Liquid Capital. First thing I heard was Rebase, and that's all I really heard about you guys. And then over the coming couple months after that, obviously you guys have made some massive strides forward in growing your name, and obviously you're one of the more relevant topics in the DeFi space right now. What has that been like? And like I said, what's been the biggest hurdle that you guys have had to jump over?
I think from an individual standpoint, everyone on the team has had a very different, we'll say, horror story. But the most difficult experience right now is definitely the situation we're in right now with the Titan community. because they were affected in such a negative way, we're currently in the process of returning $900,000 to the community, which is a massive achievement. But because it's such a large community, getting them to understand and help really, we'll say, navigate through, we'll say that's a nice word just because of all the investigations, etc., whilst also bringing in a pre-sale, it makes time management very difficult. But reason when none of us are complaining with it at all is because the reason, yes, it was definitely the most difficult time we've been in, but it's also been the most, we'll say, rewarding, not for us but the holders. What we've done is we really have shown the power of the trusted circle. We've shown what we can do pre-launch, and with all the support that we've been getting, most of our biggest supporters are from Titan now. For example, Benjamin, one of the long-term Titan holders, is now very closely working with myself, assisting me very heavily in the communities. And so we have a massive support that's really come from it. But from my point of view, from my individual perspective, was definitely helping assist this reverse rug, because it's definitely it's been very difficult, to say the least. I'm sure David has his own struggles, he can say. From my own point of view, is definitely that one.
Yeah, and Eric, I offer sympathy and support, because I've been with you every step of the way through this. You've been the lead on this, and you've been adamant about, we got to jump in, we got to deal with this right in the middle of a pre-sale. And, I support you and love you for it, because, you've done an amazing, amazing job. And by the way, you mentioned Benjamin, who I see is also here with us, and he's been amazing. I was in the LC chat, and I saw him just really assisting the mods and doing some great stuff. So thank you for that, Benjamin. For me, it's been, it's interesting. Titano has been everything and more than anyone had planned. And what I learned working with that project was just that at the center of all of these projects is the community. And we watched Titano go off like a rocket, and it reached a point where we didn't notice it until we didn't have it anymore. But we had really been able to manage growth from a standpoint of, through our holders, right? It was people telling their friends and family about Titano. We were growing, and then we hit that FOMO stage, and all of a sudden we had more holders than we knew what to do with, and all of our socials changed, right? Instead of having these very deep conversations around the project, we got win Lambo and, and win this and win that. And it just, it just changed everything. And what it brought out for me was just how much education is really needed as a central theme for DeFi in general, crypto in general. And so one of the big challenges is, me knowing, like, we're going to have to move everyone along with us, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. And so, what I say about what Titano taught me, one of the major things is that the community has to be a part of your protocol. If you're building a protocol, I don't care what it is, what kind of fork this or fork that or new thing or, innovation, if you're not including in how to make your community happy and keep them satisfied, then you're going to run into problems. So what's the biggest challenge? It's educating people about, what we're doing and why it's important. And this is why AMAs like this are amazing, because we get a chance to, you don't have to hear from someone else. You can hear it directly from us, our passion and the amount of time that we've put into this. But it's still an ongoing challenge. It's again, educating people and also getting them to appreciate how important education is. Austin, as an example with Titano, he creates these amazing videos, education videos for Titano Academy. Some of the videos are about Titano. Some of the videos are about DeFi. Some of the videos about crypto, security. We've had so many people that have fallen for these scams. It's heart-wrenching to hear people lose their tokens because of some scammer. So, this need for education on both sides, right? Supplying it and getting people to understand and appreciate how important it is for their overall DeFi and crypto experience. That's been the biggest ongoing challenge for me. And also one of the reasons why, I'm so happy to be involved with Liquid Capital. Eric and we were the two that engaged first with regard to, me being at Titano and him being at Liquid. people need to understand that the foundation of what made us come together were these big themes: safety, education, creating an environment where people had better choices, right? Choices that were focused specifically on helping them to have long-term passive income. Those were the conversations, right? And he wanted to know, what have you learned? And from all of that, all of this amazing stuff gets created. Again, it's all experimental, and it's going to be a ride like it always is. But again, the heart of it, it's got to be education. It's got to be educated. We have to get everyone educated, so again, they make better choices. That starts with, if you go in the Titano community, you'll see every question is a good question. Every focus, every idea is a good idea. We have a suggestions channel that's flooded with ideas. We've got the community involved. We want to bring all of that, but it's the challenge. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, Zach. But for me, that's what I put at the center of it. Getting everyone. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. By the way, I read your white paper, and I know that's also at the heart of what you're doing. You're doing as well. I want to commend you guys, because it is, you've obviously recognized how important it is. I say, an educated community is your best community.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess a little bit of backstory on me. So I started a project. It's called Chain Estate DAO 8 months ago. We started development on it, launched in February, and through that process, obviously starting up a project, learning the ins and outs of how to grow a community, a Twitter, a Discord, run a project, develop tokenomics, develop an innovative idea. I mean, you learn so much from doing that. And one thing that we learned along the way is that there's people coming in our Discord trying to, learn about our project, and we're happy to help them out and answer questions. But a lot of the questions that were asked led me to believe that a lot of people, most people actually, that were asking these questions didn't have a great fundamental understanding of the DeFi space, and that is really what led us to create Cardinal House. I'm really glad you guys keep bringing this up of taking what you guys have learned from running your projects collectively as partners and putting all of that into one massive project. And I think that's exactly what we are doing here, and I'm so glad that our values are like aligned spot on. It's pretty nice to talk to so many like-minded people in the DeFi space. I mean, there's so many people
like that. I was so excited to come on here. I was so heartbroken we couldn't have the other AMA yesterday. I was so upset. Now we're here. I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this has been awesome. We do actually have another AMA in 30 minutes, so I do have to get going here pretty soon. But this, again,
just kicking us off. No problem.
But this was seriously awesome. We'll have to have you guys. So we'll have to have you guys on a follow-up AMA pretty soon here too. But
fantastic.
Again, definitely. No, Zach, I want to thank you again, and also to your community for having us on. And we know it was a lot longer AMA than expected, but they often not turn out like this. So again, from the whole Liquid Capital team and myself, we want to say thank you all for generally having us, and for the Titan community that's out there. A lot of them are listening, and I want to thank you all for your support also. I know it's a hard time for you at the moment. We're over at Liquid Capital doing an AMA. We're still thinking about you all. We've had a good support from you all. We've made a lot of traction. So thank you so much from not just the communities listening, the partners and everyone. We're very close to launch, and it's only going to get even bigger. We didn't, less than a week ago, we didn't have a DEX, we didn't have anything. And now we're currently, 25 partners higher, prevented a rug pull, fully audited and fully KYC'd. So we're only going to continue growing. And the only way we can do this is with the continued support of the community and the partners. So honestly, thank you all so much. And we hope to see you in the next AMA or within the servers.
Yeah, 100%. And Austin, I know you got a little scavenger hunt going on, so if we want to end on that note, if you guys are okay with Austin shouting out something.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I want to hear it, Austin.
Guys, so I actually have an amazing announcement. So first place has literally already been taken. So someone already won $1,500 in my blockchain scavenger hunt. This is the first major Operation Give Back thing that I'm running here. But now there is a second place prize for $500. I'm currently, as we have been talking here, I've been putting together the secret phrase. So if you click on my little face, if you're not in the Freedom Over Average Discord, go hop on over to the Discord. I'm about to post the instructions for the second place prize. And yeah, it was been. I honestly thought this blockchain scavenger hunt was going to be, I'd say at least a week long. But man, this dude nailed it.
What do you think, Austin? Should you double the rewards? Just double it. Make it 1,000, not 500. We'll support it.
Yeah, you want Liquid Capital to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
All right.
So you said, you want to double it, so $1,000 for second place.
Yeah, let's do it.
There you go.
All right. Well, you guys heard it there. So now instead of $500, $1,000 up for grabs. It's a really cool incentive to just really teach you how to understand reading transactions and looking through the blockchain, along with, obviously, you got to have some really good skills at deciphering puzzles and whatnot. But yeah, so.
Now, Austin, which server did you say they need to go to? Because I didn't hear it clearly.
Freedom Over Average Discord. It's my personal Discord with my community. It's in my bio on my Discord here. It says join FA. If you click that, it'll take you over there.
Excellent, man. Fantastic. Fantastic. Zach, thank you very much, and thank you to your community and everyone that asked questions. Great questions. And yeah, if you have any additional questions, please come and see us in the Liquid Capital Discord. We're all happy to answer any questions that you have. The pre-sale is going for another 3.5 days, if I'm not mistaken, Eric.
Yeah, just about 3 days. Yep.
Yeah. So, if you're liking what you're hearing, we would love to have you. But, as Eric said, do your research, and it should fit in with your investment plans. So that's how you make a decision. Exciting times. And again, thank you everybody for having us. And thank you, Zach. Great to meet you, man.
Likewise, man. This is awesome. We'll keep in touch.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
All right. See you soon.